God made the human body to be an extremely powerful, finely tuned physical engine, but it needs fuel to work, and that fuel is known as food. We are conditioned to eat 3 times a day and are constantly reminded that a hearty breakfast is the foundation of the day. Eat so that you may be strong. Therefore, why would anyone choose to go hungry in the modern world where God has created in us an appetite for food known as hunger to ensure that the body gets fueled? Why skip meals when we were instructed in school to eat 3 complete meals a day and exercise to be strong? The Bible refers to abstaining from food for spiritual reasons as fasting. A fast is usually observed for a certain amount of time in order to attain a spiritual objective. This practice is known as dieting in the outside world, and it is frequently done to lose weight or for health concerns. See Leviticus 16 verse 29, which states that this shall be a statute forever for you in the 7th month. On the 10th day of the month you shall afflict your souls and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourns among you, as an example from the Old Testament. Every year, the Jewish faithful were required to fast. This was known as the Yom Kippur fast because it was observed on the Day of Atonement. The fast is called the Yom Kippur fast, which translates to Day of Atonement. On the Day of Atonement, which falls on the first day of the year, God commanded his people to fast once. This was done on purpose, as God wanted everyone to remember the serious experience of their salvation. The high priest entered the Holy of Holies and offered the blood of an animal in exchange for everyone's sins, Leviticus 16 verse 4. He also had to wash his flesh in the holy place, put on his garments, and then come forth and offer both his own burnt offering and the people's. Everyone observed a fast in solidarity with the high priest, who offered a lamb as atonement for their transgressions. Jesus instructed his disciples in Matthew 6 verses 16 to 18 that when they fast, they should not appear solemn like the hypocrites, who deform their faces to demonstrate to others that they are fasting since they have already received their full reward. Instead, they should anoint their heads and wash their faces so that it is not apparent to others that they are fasting, but rather to their invisible Father, who will reward them when they give up both necessary and pleasurable foods. Jesus admonished his disciples not to fast in public even back then. We should not flaunt our fasts. Praise the fact that he stated, "Whenever you fast," demonstrating his belief that fasting is a valid spiritual practice. When you fast, you temporarily give up a bodily desire, usually food, in favor of a spiritual need. Instead of eating, you devote yourself to prayer in secret, asking God to intervene in the world. But if your purpose for fasting is to gain attention from others for your spirituality, then that will be your reward. This raises concerns about fasting. If you have never fasted before, the thought of going without food for any length of time is probably frightening. People worry about a variety of things because we are inherently prone to eating 3 times a day. Some wonder if they will feel hungry or if the hunger pangs will be excruciating. Others wonder if they can persevere or if they want to take on a journey they cannot finish. Still others worry about how their friends will see them if they fast. Will my friends think I'm strange if they find out that I'm fasting? The answer is straightforward. You don't fast to please your friends, and you usually don't even tell them about it. As Jesus previously stated, you should anoint your head and wash your face during a fast so that your Father, who is unseen and who knows what you do in secret, will openly reward you. In Matthew 6 verses 17 to 18, Jesus urged us not to flaunt our religious devotion to him. Rather, fasting is a private commitment that you make to God. You can fast in secret and inform no one else, or you might observe a public fast with your church or other group. To address a situation. Every year in May, Christians are invited to participate in the National Day of Prayer and Fasting. It is important to note that fasting is not the same as dieting or giving up food for health reasons. Instead, Ezra fasted with 4,000 other people, and Esther asked all Jewish believers to fast for divine intervention. Fasting is a biblical discipline that can help anyone improve their spiritual fitness and become a prayer warrior for God. While some people think Christians don't need discipline, there are many different sorts of fasts for spiritual purposes. Regardless, no matter how we strengthen ourselves spiritually, we must never forget that we are Christ's soldiers. A good soldier is skilled in many different disciplines. One of the many disciplines of a Christian is fasting. Jesus told his disciples that when you pray for others, whether for your church or for their salvation, Satan will oppose you. Fasting is similar to climbing a mountain in that it requires both physical and spiritual strength. Go into this adventure knowing that the path ahead may be difficult, but that the rewards will be well worth it. If this is your first time fasting, start small. When you start a fast, don't worry about how long it should last. Instead, focus on building a strong relationship with God. God knows everything, knows how to hear your prayers, and values the sincerity of your prayers more than their duration. God will honor your first step of faith, which may seem small to others, but will be a great step for you. God also cares about your heart's response during fasting. Your attitude is a very serious part of your fast. Therefore, if you have never fasted before, begin by skipping one meal. According to the Jewish calendar, God taught the Jews to count their days, so the evening and the morning were the first day. In the Old Testament, Jews were required to fast for one day on Yom Kippur every year. A day began at sunset and ended at sunset the following day. Genesis 1 verse 5 states that you should begin your fast when the sun sets, or even slightly before sundown. This means that you should forego your typical evening meal before skipping breakfast and lunch. While private prayer and fasting are the cornerstones of all intercession, if you have never followed this path before, you may choose to begin your fasting. The majority of Jews broke their fast the following day after sundown by eating a regular meal while fasting with a friend. There is strength in numbers, therefore if you are fasting for a particular answer to prayer, ask someone to fast and pray with you. According to Jesus, everything you bind on earth will also be bound in heaven, and everything you loose on earth will also be released in heaven. Matthew 18 verses 18 to 19. Even though fasting and solitary prayer are the cornerstones of all intercession, if you have never followed this route before, you may choose to begin your fasting. Consider it this way: if two of you on earth agree about everything you ask for, my Father in heaven will grant it to them. The same is true for fasting. When you experience fasting and praying together, your prayers are likely to be more focused. On the other hand, fasting with another person has additional benefits. You have someone to share the experience with and plan visions and challenges with. Planning a vacation with someone else makes it more memorable. When you climb a mountain alone, you are doing it to prove something to yourself, and the victory is all yours. However, when you climb with others, you have many people to celebrate with when you reach the top, embrace, and then return to tell everyone about your victory. When you finish the fast, you can rejoice together simply because being together makes the taste of victory even sweeter. If fasting intimidates you, the strength of another person can help you overcome it. You can always call each other for advice and to check how it's going. This phone call might give you the inspiration you need to keep going. Don't forget the celebration. Another benefit of fasting with a friend is that it creates accountability. If you've already run or walked for health with a friend, you may understand how having a partner can help you stay committed when times get tough. If you're strong, you may not need someone to help with accountability, but if you're not in the same boat as them, it can be helpful to fast with purpose. When you're getting ready to fast, dig deep inside to find out why you're fasting. There are a plethora of reasons to fast, all of which we will cover. However, when young David faced Goliath, no other Israeli soldier wanted to face the giant. Instead, they each gave David a different excuse to avoid the fight, but David remained unfazed because he had a strong reason to take on that specific giant. Fasting is about more than just praying and fasting. We fast for a purpose. Are you willing to fast and give up your pleasures? Enumerate your causes and put them in writing so you can see them for yourself. When a cause is all you think about, it can become hazy or unclear. You may have a general idea of why you should fast right now, but taking the time to write it down will help you focus. If you see it written down, plan everything. Don't enter your fast carelessly or casually. If you don't, you're likely to fail. Don't participate in a fast just to see how far you can go. Some people have mentioned that they have tried fasting before giving up at the first sign of discomfort. Regardless of the situation, make a strong decision to fast for a day. You've gone from considering fasting and wanting to be more spiritual to taking action and deciding to seek God for your cause. You're committed to fasting in accordance with God's grace and assistance. The ultimate quick during this fast, you abstain from all food and liquids. Following his encounter with the Lord Jesus on the road to Damascus, Paul was struck blind and went without food or drink for 3 days. Acts 9 verse 9 describes this type of fast that Paul undertook. Do not attempt the absolute fast on your first fast. This type of fast is meant for people who are extremely upset or who are fasting to address a serious issue, such being freed from an addiction or being protected from a spiritual enemy. The standard fast, you just consume liquids during this fast and avoid all solid food. The Bible most frequently uses the term fast to describe persons who abstain from eating solid meals. The topic of drinking liquids is sometimes overlooked. During those days, Jesus went without food and felt hungry at the conclusion of them, Luke 4 verse 2. There is no mention of Jesus drinking liquids during the fast. Instead, people avoid enjoyable drinks like soda and different fruit juices, which is consistent with the Old Testament account of them fasting and suffering self-afflictions. Isaiah 58 verse 3, the Daniel fast, also known as the partial fast, is named after the king Daniel, who refused to eat at the king's table and demanded in Daniel 1 verse 12 that his servants try him for 10 days, giving him nothing to drink and only vegetables to eat. Daniel and his companions were unharmed by the fast at any other point. Daniel 10 verse 3 captures the essence of the partial fast. During the 3 weeks, I abstained from all meat and wine and did not apply any lotions. This partial fast outlines the foods that Daniel avoided the most, starting with sweets like cakes and donuts. A meatless diet, a dessert fast, and wine round out the top 3. Everything that is enjoyable or joyful every 2 or 3 months, in order to prepare spiritually for the conference. John Wesley, the founder and head of the illustrious Methodist movement, called all of his circuit preachers to the new chapel or to London. Prior to every meeting, Wesley fasted for 10 days, ingesting only water and natural whole grain bread. Everyone agrees that the Methodist preachers left the conference determined to change the world. These preachers founded the largest Protestant denomination in the world as a reflection of God's honor to Wesley's spiritual dedication to fasting and prayer. Wesley fasted and prayed for spiritual power to influence his ministries during these meetings. A normal or absolute fast is usually followed by 6 days during which only one new food group is introduced and consumed each day, rotating among the food groups. This helps identify which food is causing a person's physical problem by elimination and exclusion. This fast is rarely used in Christian circles because it is primarily used for medical purposes, mainly to determine a person's reaction or allergy to specific food groups to cleanse their system. Selecting a fast, there are a number of things to take into account when getting ready to fast. Take into account your unique circumstances and the following suggestions to help you choose the best course of action. Factor of first-time fasting. As previously stated, if this is your first fast, I advise beginning. To address a serious or ongoing issue, you might find it more beneficial to fast 1 day per week for 3 weeks rather than starting with a 3-day fast. Keep in mind that if this is your first time fasting, you are embarking on a new journey and should proceed cautiously as you are learning new skills and attitudes for both your body and soul. Your first fast should be a normal one, meaning you should only eat liquids and nothing else. This practice will help train your body to not react negatively if you later eliminate both food and liquid matching factors. You should try to match the purpose of your fast to the type of fasting. Select a standard fast for a regular inquiry. Select a fast with stricter guidelines if you are dealing with a more serious issue. You should feel comfortable with the fast's duration and style. When choosing what to give up for prayer, you shouldn't doubt yourself or feel bad about yourself for making a mistake. Select a quick that will enable you to feel confident in your choice. Factor of time. Many factors affect whether you decide to fast and how long you fast. You should consider your weekly calendar to determine which days of the week are best for fasting and whether there is a special occasion approaching that would be a good time to break your fast. Thank you, Christmas nuptials, etc. One-day fasts are extremely manageable, and you should never start a long fast since you never know what to expect from your body or how you will react emotionally. Remember that whatsoever fast you decide to do for the first time is a leap of faith. God sees your heart and will reward you appropriately. Prayer. May God give us the discernment to comprehend the spiritual significance and advantages of fasting, showing us that it is not just abstaining from food that draws us nearer to Him, but also the sincerity of our hearts and the quest for a deeper connection through prayer. May we fast not to be seen by others, but to be seen by God Himself. We give thanks to the Lord for the strength and discipline that fasting gives us, teaching us to rely more on Him and less on ourselves. Amen. If you found this content helpful, please consider subscribing so that you don't miss any of our next videos. Together, we can enlighten more people and deepen our understanding. Thank you for visiting, and may God bless you.